The Fantasy Skirmisher.
Regulus is an upcoming game currently available on GameFound, but time is running out. And it is a high fantasy arena sports game for 2 to 4 players. It plays relatively quickly in 30 to 45 minutes. And it was designed by Jasper van der Kroon. And the art is done by Ethan Davies. So this right here is a prototype that was sent to me after a review copy was sent to a much larger channel than my little but mighty one. So the backstory to Regulus is really cool. It's basically you've got this fantasy realm where after a while all the dungeons have been cleared of all the monsters. The dragons have either been slain or have been driven into hiding in slumber. And so now you've got this fantasy realm that is relatively safe. But you've got all these adventurers of all alignments. And they're kind of driven by boredom and, okay, what do we do next? Because the dungeons, they've been kind of gentrified. They're turning into microbreweries or coffee shops. And being a barista or a beer back is not a job for these types of people, right? So, with all the dangers quelled, the adventurers of the realm wanted to desire and showcase their prowess, and so they turned to Regulus. So they fight in a grand arena of teams of 3 to compete against each other for glory, for riches, to satiate their bloodlust, and also just for the thrill of adventure. So the game is played, and I really love this, on various maps. Now this prototype has 6 maps. I believe it's 6 maps, but the full game is going to have more. It's going to have 10 maps altogether. So you've got Castle Ruins, and you can see this is 1 player versus 1. And this is the starting area, and you've got all kinds of different obstacles. And the starting areas are the light green, and then these darker green, bluish green right here. That's the Regulus. If you end a turn in this area, you score points. And we'll talk more about that. You've got the Abyss, and some of these maps have specialized rules. Like you've got arena rules here, and also for the graveyard. And for the tournament, this is 1 versus 1, 1 team versus 1. And here is 2 players versus 2. And so you can see the different starting areas. And then you've got 2 versus 2 tournaments. So like I said, the full game will have more maps. So what else comes with this game? Well, you've got, of course, the rule book. And with this prototype version, it's not a bound rule book. It's just really nice kind of glossy paper here. But you've got the components, table of contents, which is actually page 1 there. I think these pages are a little bit mixed up from the game I played yesterday. And yes, they are. But you can see you've got the different teams here. So you've got the Adventuring Society, the Orcs of Swamp Forest. You've got the Bearded Trouble, you've got the Dwarves there, and the Children of Dracul. So you've got these fashionista vampires. And then it goes through, combat round, ending combat rounds, player turns, the different actions you can take. And one thing I like about these rules is that the rules as written are written on one side, and the illustrated version of the rules are on the other side. So that way you can visually see what is being referred to in the written rules. So I think that's a really interesting way to do that. The other thing I like about this game, or this rule book I should say, is that not only it has the table of contents, but it also has a list of terms and actions. So therefore, if you're unfamiliar with the term, you need a refresher. What does this mean exactly? It's right there at your fingertips. And also, a great thing about this game is that there is more than one way to play this game. So you've got a basic game for beginners right here. Then you've got the basic mode, which focuses on knocking out other players. And then you've got Regulus favorites, 1 versus 1. And this is what I played. So this is not going to be a full review, because I only played one game, but I got a good sense of how the game plays, and it certainly kept my interest. And so we're going to talk about that, and I'll show you more about the game so you can decide if this is something you might be interested in. But this one adds basically objective cards. They call it crowd favorites. And then on the other page here, you've got Regulus Tactics 1 versus 1, which is an advanced game mode. And so then you've got classic team fight 2 versus 2 and a free-for-all. And they add different elements. So there's a lot of variety on the way you could play this game, and it almost gives it a sandbox feel. So let's take a look at some more of the components. So to win the game, you need to go to 10, and you need to stay there because as soon as the player reaches 10 victory points, the game does not end immediately. You've got to finish out that round and determine victory based on that. So there's a chance that your opponent can try to catch up to you. All right, so let's take a look at the different factions here. So here we've got Arnold, who's a champion, and then you've got some keywords, strength and melee, which I'll show you, why that's important. Then there's different actions you could take, and you've got move, and then some, as you can see, cost energy, such as sprinting. He could do a strike and challenge, and he could spend energy to do a cleave. And one thing I really think is cool about this game are reactions. So a reaction is kind of like in a tactical combat game, like Space Hulk or one of the various historical simulations like Squad Leader. You have opportunity fire, where basically you could designate, say, a machine gunner in a World War II game to be on Overwatch. So therefore, that machine gunner could fire on the other player's turn. And so this really helps open up the tactics because you've got different combos you could do, things like that. And of course, you've got the health tracker right here. Then you've got Christina, who's a sentry. So she's a shooty type, so she can move for 2 energy. She could sprint, meaning move faster. She can aim, doesn't cost any energy. And I'll show you that on the map. And then she can shoot. And the different symbols here represent different things like range, how much damage. And then optionally, she could push back a player 1 space. And you can see why that would be important if you're trying to move somebody off the Regulus so they don't score that point. And then for a reaction, she's got an aimed shot. So therefore, she could kind of set up, place aim, do an aim shot. So kind of neat, huh? And then we've got Gregor the Wizard. And also, you probably noticed the artwork is really cool, right? I love the backdrop illustration there of the castle. But even, the characters, they've got that old school vibe, which I really like. I think the artwork is well done here. And so I'm not going to keep going through all these, but you can kind of get an idea. You've got different abilities. And so, the purple here is magic combat. And we'll move on to, looks like we've got the orcs. So we've got the brute, right, the tank type. And then we've got the shaman. And then you've got the hunter. And the hunter here not only could do a range attack, but also could pull somebody in. Instead of pushing somebody away with a harpoon shot, she could drag somebody towards, say, the brute, right? So he can attack. Now, of course, you have to time that where, she would go and then Narnar would go, next. So if you kind of get an idea there. And one thing that's unique about this game is its initiative system, which we'll take a look at. And then we've got the vampires here, right? So we've got Devon, the duelist, Tatiana, the blood mage, and Mary, the seductress. Now, the game I played was the orcs and your typical human adventuring party. And then now we've got the dwarves. So we've got a beast bunter, centennial, and an inventor. And they also come with miniatures. All right, so here we have the Adventuring Society. And you'll notice the staff is broken on this prototype mini here. It looks like these were, the prototype version is in resin here. And here we have our dwarves. And our orcs. And you can see, there's really good detail in these miniatures. All right, and then we have the vampires, and it looks like her left hand over here is missing. But like I said, this is a prototype. Looks like this was 3D printed resin. I have a 3D printer, a resin one, and the miniatures can be quite fragile. And I think it's going to be a plasticized resin for the final product, so it'll be more durable. Also, there's a standee version of this game if you don't want miniatures. So not only is the game cost a little bit less, but just some people prefer full color standees as opposed to miniatures that need to be painted. And we also have these wooden cubes. The yellows for the energy that we looked at on the player boards, and the white cubes are to put on the health trackers. And we have various markers. So for example, here's the aim shots that I remember from yesterday. And then we got traps. I think the dwarves could lay traps, or at least one of them, the hunter. But see, there's a variety of markers here. And speaking of markers, we have barricades. And we have a wide variety of traps. Again, this is prototype versions, not the final form. And when these are printed up, they are a little bit larger than the hexes in the map. But again, this is a prototype. Now we have lots of different cards. We'll start with the initiative cards. So for the two-player game, one player chooses the red, the other one the blue, and you got even and odd numbers here. And after you go through the first combat round in the initiative phase, then the players switch. So then if one had the even, then now they would get the odd cards to play. And then you've got more of these. This is for the 4-player version where you got the two teams. And you can see the numbers are different. On here, it goes up to 18. As you can see here, there's some higher numbers that have different various numbers, and they're not necessarily in a sequence. Next, we have the achievement cards. So during the game, this is also the crowd favorites, right? And this is what we played. It was a lot of fun. So by the map, you have 3 revealed, and if you meet the objective, then you just take that card and you score that extra point. So you can see it's a lot of them are 1, but you got some 2s in here, depending on the difficulty, and even a 3. And so it's two-sided, as you can see. You got the top and bottom, and you can see here this is for a 2-player version. Below here it's for a 4-player version. Now, once you become familiar with how each character works and how they interact with each other, with their teammates, what you can do is use equipment cards. This is just another way to play, and each character can have up to 3 equipment cards. There are some restrictions, so you can't, if you have a 2-handed weapon, you can't carry another weapon. You can't have 2 helmets because you only have 1 head. You know what I mean. But pretty straightforward here. But on the equipment card, so for example here, you've got the orcs. You got this is an instant, and it's called Break Block is the name of the card, and the name of the item is a Skull Splitter Axe, and the character who wields this must have strength, and it is a 2-handed weapon. And then this is the reaction effect. And so let's take a look at this hot mess. Okay, so of course, Narnar the Brute, he has the keyword strength, so he would be able to use this piece of equipment. And so on, so forth. And so that is true of the various factions. Again, I haven't tried this way, I only got it in one play. So I just want to give you a sense of how the game plays so you can see if this is a game you might be interested in and backing, or if it's after the campaign when you see this, go ahead and purchase. All right, so I have the game set up now, and as you can see on my 3x3 table, that has a rather small footprint. So this is a portable game that you could bring to the pub, you could bring to a board game cafe, those places that typically have smaller gaming tables, like mine, and you'll have enough space to play. Now the game setup is quick and easy. So you'll pick your faction, and for each member of your faction, you'll have 3 energy cubes, and you'll put the health cube at the top of the health tracker there. And you may have some tokens that you'll need. So for example, Christiana here, she's got aim markers as a part of her action. See, aim. And so I've got those ready. And then you'll select one of 2 cards. The red are odd numbered, and the blue cards are even numbered. That's for the initiative, which we'll talk about. And then you've got your little faction tokens for your victory points. And then you'll place your characters in the green spaces here. And then what I did is I set up for the achievement cards, the crowd favorites here, because this is just another way to score victory points. So as soon as you meet a condition, you grab it, and then you'll get an additional point, which you'll put immediately on the victory tracker there. One of the neat things about this game is the initiative system. And what you do is after you select your deck of cards, you are going to assign a number to each of your characters, and your opponent is going to do the same. And then one player will call out, starting with number 1 and moving forward until a card number is reached. So the flow of the game is that Regulus is played in combat rounds that consist of 3 initiative bids. So initiative bid includes 1 activation for each of the 3 characters on both teams. And after they've all activated, then a new initiative bid takes place. So you take your remaining cards, choose 3 more, and then you assign them. And then after that turn has been played, then your last 3 cards. And so that is where a new combat round starts. So you have 3 initiative bids, which make up a combat round. And then after that, if there is not a winner yet, then the opponents will switch cards, where one will have the odd numbered cards and the others will have even numbered cards. Now, a question I had when reading the initiative rules was, well, why slow down play by just naming the numbers until someone has one? Why don't you just assign the cards and then just reveal them all and then go in that order? And I had mentioned that question to the designer, and he responded back right away, is that basically what he said is he just didn't want to telegraph the moves of a player to the opponent, because if your opponent could see which initiative order, then he could kind of get a gleam into what your strategy might be and then counter it. And it turns out when I played the game, that was absolutely correct. And so also I learned when I played the game is that going through initiative in order does not bog down the game, does not add time. And also you could speed up things a little bit. One thing that my opponent and I started doing, and the author also mentioned this in his response to my question, is that say you have card number 6, that's what you start with. You could call out and say, does anyone have card number 1 through 5? And then if, say, the opponent has card number 4, then of course he would reveal it. And so that way it kind of speeds things up. But it was not an issue whatsoever. And the initiative system is, I think, really a key aspect of this game that makes it unique and really adds to the fun. Now, when I set this up last night, I don't remember what the cards are. So what we would do to start the game is call out the numbers 1 through 18, and then whoever has the lowest card, which is this one, would start. So you've got the shaman here, the orc shaman, Warghan, who has bid number 4. And yes, that is correct. All right, so he's got some options here. Let's take a look. So he's a little bit weaker. He only has 6 health. And a couple things that he can do here is that he can move. Let me just move. Speaking of move, let's move these cubes. All right, so for no energy cubes, he can sprint up to 3 spaces. So he's relatively quick compared to his teammates and also his opponents here. He can stab, also no energy, for 2 damage, 2 physical damage. And so you can see the crossed swords, that's adjacent. And then he could, for 2 energy cubes, do War Cry, and it's a range of 3, it's magic, and sound is the range. So what that means exactly is that there is a straight line rule for line of sight or for shooting. So you cannot kind of go like this when you're shooting a bow. Everything has to be in a straight line. But sound does not do that. It's kind of within a radius of 3 range, if that makes sense. And so here, one team member does +2 damage on their next attack. So he's supporting his teammates there. Poisonous Cloud, and then Life Surge, which is, like I said, a reaction. And that's another cool feature that I like about this game, is that you kind of reserve a player to act in the other player's turn when conditions are met. So for example, here it's Life Surge, range of 3, sound. You could heal a team member up to 3 health. And so the trigger is right here when a team member is attacked. So if a team member is attacked, takes damage, Life Surge, if he's within 3 range, can heal him. So that's kind of a cool feature of that shaman. So there's different combinations that could be done. And so order is actually important. And that's something I'm still trying to figure out. And that's because, I just played one rushed game. I received this game on July 3rd, just before the 4th of July weekend. That weekend also happens to be my birthday weekend. And I had a lot of things going on. So I'm just now able to get to this game. But I did play the game on Sunday, July 6th with a friend of mine. And we both really enjoyed it, which I'll talk about soon. So we'll have the shaman go 1, 2, 3 spaces. And then he's going to go ahead and cast reaction. We'll do a reaction. Go do the Life Surge. So he's going to spend an energy cube. He has 2 cubes left over, which will not be used. And so that is his turn because he took his 2 actions. All right, so what is next? Well, that would be Arnold, our champion, right here. So you could see, take a look at Arnold. Let's move his energy and health cubes. So he has 12 health. He has a move of 2. He could spend an energy cube and sprint. He needs energy because, he's sprinting in full armor, right? And then he has strike and challenge. So this is a sound range. So strength characters, and what's a strength character? Well, you can see it right here, right? Strength, also the keyword up here, strength and melee. So strength characters in range 2 have to move 1 space toward you if this results in combat. All right, so he's kind of good at taunting, I guess, and reminds me of Monty Python, right? And then if he's within range, the enemy has to move up to him where he may have a chance to attack. So he's not within range to be able to do that type of move. May not be the best one. Then he has cleave. He could hit 2 adjacent opponents. Very nice, kind of barbarian style, right? And then his reaction is an opportunity strike. And so the trigger is when a team member moves an opponent into your range. So how can opponents move an enemy into your range? Well, so for example, got Gregor the Wizard here. So not only for his energy push, he does 2 magic damage to an opponent, but he could push that enemy he hit 2 spaces. So he could push an enemy right in front of or adjacent to Arnold, the champion here, who could then do that opportunity strike and whack him for 3 more damage. And besides pushing, there's also pulling. So for example, Kengara the Hunter. So she has a harpoon shot. So it's a range of 3, does 2 damage, and she could also optionally pull someone towards her 2 spaces. So not only are there people who could push, but also pull as well. And besides pushing into a team member for an opportunity strike or whatever, of course you could push people out of the Regulus zone and prevent them from scoring points if you're getting towards the end of the round there, of the initiative bid. All right, so back to Arnold, who is next up with an initiative of 5. So what he would do is he would take his 2 actions. Well, he could sprint and move right up into the Regulus zone. That would cost 1 action. And then let's see here. Strength characters in range 2 have to move 1 space. Well, that would be kind of a cool thing to do here, but this is not a strength character. The only strength character is Narnar the Brute, and he is not within range. So wouldn't be able to do that. But perhaps I could just do a opportunity strike, just in case the opportunity comes up, to be able to pull someone towards him. But we'll see. That might be wasted, but it's early in the game, right? You're just trying to move into position. And another thing I had thought is, boy, these maps are kind of cool, but aren't they a little small for maneuvering? And it turns out that is not the case of all. There is plenty of room for maneuver on all these maps. All right, so who is next? So the numbers get called out, right? So 5, 6, nope, 7. All right, so that is Christiana the Sentry. And so let's, she has a regular move of 2. And so let's just move her here. And you know what? I think I'm just going to keep her there. I'm going to do something kind of unusual. I don't know if it'll work, probably not, but just for example purposes. So let's move her cubes again, take a look at what she's got. So when my friend had this faction we played, he was concerned that there's just not enough action economy on this, just because she has 3 energy cubes and she has 3 things that require 2 cubes. So it seems like 1 cube is always going to be wasted here. So anyway, he thought that was kind of an unusual situation. But she is a sentry, right? And so she could do a couple things for free, and that's 1 move. And then she could also aim, and that's placing these aim tokens out. And aim works in conjunction with aimed shot. So it is the reaction range 3, and she could also push an opponent back 1 space. And then the trigger here is when an opponent moves through a targeted counter. So let's go ahead and just, for demonstration purposes, maybe it's not the best move, let's put her cubes back, is that she's not going to move, that she is going to aim. And so she is going to place these aim markers in a straight line. And then if somebody moves here, like Narnar, he will get hit by an aimed shot, because we are going to put 2 energy cubes in aimed shot. So the reaction is 3 damage and move a character back 1. So let's just say his plan was to move up here, right? To sprint up here. Well, what would happen is that she will shoot, cause damage, and then force him back. I think he was here, right? All right, so that would kind of spoil his move, because she's kind of protecting this Regulus spot. And so that would be hers. And then the next one would be, all right, Kengara the Hunter, and then she would strategize, see what her optimal moves are, and you kind of get the idea of the flow of the game, right? This is not a full review that I'm doing, or a playthrough or tutorial. There's only a few days left after this publication for you to back this game on GameFound. After that, I'm sure there's going to be a late backer program, but I want to make sure that you have enough information to make a decision if this is something that you would be interested in. So just a few more thoughts. So like I said, there's going to be 10 maps. This prototype had 6, which I showed you. This is a basic map right here. Other maps have special rules, which really just add new elements to the battle, to the games. There's different ways to play, such as adding these cards here, or equipping your loadouts for your characters. And so that was a thought to counter my friend's concern about that action economy on the century here, Christiana. And so, you could change the way she plays up to suit your style. There are lots of different traps that can be placed, and they can be destroyed, as well as barricades. And so that really kind of changes up the maps. And so overall, my opinion is that, I think this is a really fun game, an interesting game, and I look forward to doing a full review and also a playthrough video for you guys when this game is published in its final form. So I think this is definitely, I want to get the more polished game. And also a final word, because I also asked about this. These are obviously prototype minis. They look great. They're done in resin, and I know from experience that resin's pretty fragile, and there are a few broken pieces on here, including the staff. I found the staff in the box, so I was able to glue it back on here. But they're going to be injection molded plastic, so they're going to be a lot more sturdy because there are little pieces that could be fragile. But they look great, and if you play tabletop miniature games, war games, you could use these for other games such as Frostgrave or Cell Swords and Spellslingers, or any other number of tabletop miniature skirmish games that either I've covered or have yet to cover.
Going to teleport over there.
And this is just a quick clip of the game that we played.
Beam doing 2 damage to him and 3 damage to him.
Oh shit. 1, 2, 3, yep. So wizard is 2, my shaman, 2 damage, and 3 to my knight.
Yep,
my brute. Oh boy, okay.
Okay, so that was 2. Anything up to 5?
Nope.
This is 4.
Okay.
Let us have some fun. Oh, wonderful. She is going to do her standard move, and then she is going to shoot your wizard, doing 2 damage and pushing him 1, but it looks like he's dead.
Dead.
And so that's him. So that'll be 2 points for killing him. And oh look, 2 opponents inside the respawn zone at the same time.
Where's 2 opponents in the respawn?
I killed him, so he goes there.
Oh, yeah, nice. Okay, so the next card is... Oops. No way. Move 2 opponents outside of the regular zone in the last initiative round of a combat round.
Yeah.
All right, so... We really liked our first game of Regulus. We like the asymmetrical teams. We like the fact that it's non-deterministic combat. We really liked the unique initiative system, which helps with the tactics and your strategy, and also just the wide variety of ways you can play this game. And you could even create your own scenarios because of the trap tokens and other barriers such as the barricades. In the final game, each team is going to have their own box, so it'll be easy to store and set. Also, the miniatures are going to be injection molded plastic, so they'll be more durable. They'll be that standard gray color that we're used to in miniatures. And there's going to be colored base caps, so it's easy to distinguish which team is which.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.